Hi, hello YouTube, Deuces Wild here. Wanted to do a quick little video on this Proboat Impulse 31 I bought about 4 months ago. This is purely about tuning and overcoming any heat issues and hopping. These boats can be unstable. I know mine was right out of the box, and it took me about 7 attempts to get it to stop doing it. Now I've got it dialed in, so I just want to share this information with you guys. First thing you're going to want to do when you get your boat is get a straight edge. I used a large Allen wrench. You see these trim tabs here? You want to get a straight edge and put it right into the hull and bring both sides of each tab absolutely flush with the bottom of your hull. Then lock those down good and tight. Next thing you're going to want to do is take a crescent wrench and just bend these down 2 or 3 degrees. You don't have to be exact, but just get them down a little bit. The reason being is if they're totally flat with a hull, without bending them down, your bow tends to ride high, and every time it hits a wave, the higher the front of your bow is, the more it's going to dip down when it recovers from that wave, causing like a torpedo effect where the nose actually dips into the water, causing the boat to flip. I know when I first got mine out of the box and got the batteries charged and got it down to the lake, I was so excited, couldn't wait to get it going, and it flipped like 3 or 4 times. It was extremely frustrating. I did buy a little recovery boat over here just to push it to the shore when I did, before I did a maiden run on this boat, which helped. But it was just so frustrating because I wanted to really haul ass with this thing and just have fun with it, and it would capsize going into the turn, it would capsize coming out of the turn. If you let off the throttle too quick, it would dip down, torpedo, and flip. So everything had to be done in smooth, fluid, just to keep it from flipping. So anyway, once you got these tabs nice and flush, locked in on both sides, bend the tabs down, you want to take these turning fins and move them all the way forward and all the way up. When you go into a turn, that outside fin, so you're making a right-hand turn, the boat tips to the right, you don't need this fin digging in the water. That can also cause it to capsize. So once you got these tabs dialed in, bring your fins all the way up and all the way forward. And you can angle them a little bit. That's not going to matter too much. Mainly is just get as much out of the water so you don't have that coefficient drag and it's actually doing its job while in a turn. The next issue I ran into with this boat, I'll go ahead and take the lid off, and I was able to overcome any heat issues after this. I noticed once I got about 8 or 9 runs on this boat, I brought it in and there was smoke in here. It wasn't real bad, but I noticed that there was friction going on right down here where the drive shaft comes in and meets the motor. So I pulled the motor, pulled the propeller shaft off, took a look at it, and noticed that it chewed up the Teflon liner where the flex shaft goes through there. So I went ahead and ordered 2 new ones, and when I went to put it back together, I figured out what caused it. Well, from the factory, the motor mount was a bit too high. So I lowered the motor mount so as to center the propeller shaft with this brass coupling that has your locking set screws on it. Made a huge difference. I didn't have any more friction. So probably the first thing you're going to want to do when you get your boat out of the box, check and see by undoing this, undoing your motor mount, let your shaft relax, because if you take it out and you look, you'll see that these tubes actually curve upwards. As you slide it in, it curves upwards towards the motor. They're not perfectly straight. They're not as long as the Blackjack 29, so it's crucial that you center that flex shaft and then adjust the motor down to it so that it's completely relaxed. Then on the other side, you do have 2 adjustment screws here and here. I hope you can see this. Sorry I don't have a cameraman because I'm all by myself here. Loosen these and allow your propeller just to relax in a centered state on the opposite side of the tube. Once you get both sides done, centered, bye-bye friction, Hello efficiency, no more heat. The other heat issue I ran into is my 3 connectors from my motor to the ESC. Now this heat shrink tubing from the factory is okay, but when it gets hot it'll actually melt. So what I did, and I had a cold, actually had a die out in the middle of the lake, just all of a sudden nothing was going on. I get it back in. I had a cold solder on one of my wires and it actually came loose. I don't know if cold solder, I say cold solder, maybe it was just the heat caused it to melt and pop loose. I resoldered these connectors, and it was on the motor side where I had the heat issue of the connectors, not on the ESC side. So what I did was I took some of the silicone tubing, to give you a little bit extra here, I cut some enough off to make 3 little pieces to replace the heat shrink tubing. Not only does it insulate better and handle the heat better than heat shrink tubing, it also keeps the wires from touching each other at the connectors, which could possibly short out, and then you'd have bigger problems. Fortunately for me, I was lucky enough it didn't melt enough to short it out, but it came close. So I was able to resolve that issue. So you can do that. You can use the silicone tubing or buy some if you can find some somewhere and replace your heat shrink. And I haven't done it on this side yet because I haven't had any issues, and this knocked about 80 to 90% of the heat out. All my heat was coming from the connectors. The ESC was fine, motor was fine, nothing else was getting hot. That resolved that issue right there. So I hope these tips will help you. So just remember, if you don't want to be having to swim or wait for the wind to kick up to blow it back to shore, or have to buy a rescue boat, which that's a good idea to have anyway. So far since I've fixed this, it took about 7 runs. On my 8th run I got it dialed in, and I've been driving it since, and I've not even had to use the rescue boat. This thing hugs the water great. The whole point of bending those tabs is to keep more hull in the water at top speeds, and then you won't get that hopping effect. You won't get that side-to-side instability where it wants to flip. It'll carve through corners much smoother, like a race car in the water. It'll handle great. As you can see in my other video that I already did, this baby, it's smooth, smooth, smooth. What do you want, baby girl? It's okay. So anyway, yeah, that's it, man. That's all you need to do. Get those trim tabs flush to the hole on both sides of each tab. Bend them down 2 to 3 degrees. Pull those turning fins up and all the way forward. And center your motor shaft and your propeller shaft. Now you can drop your prop a little bit deeper in the water. It'll get more punch out of the hole, lose maybe a little bit of top end speed. The higher up you bring your prop, the longer it takes to grab when you punch it before it actually takes off. It'll throw a little bit more rooster tail, but you're talking a minute adjustment. Really, I would stay focused with just keeping that propeller shaft centered in the tube to avoid friction on both ends, and leave it. Because all of the magic that happens with these boats to prevent them from flipping and hopping is right here on your trim tabs or planing tabs, whatever you want to call those. That's where the magic really happens. I hope this was some good information for all you guys that own these boats, because it has really helped me in my experience, and I haven't had any issues with it since. Thank you, and have a good day.